与您分享独处的幸福心理学，不是被迫的孤独与寂寞，而是主动回来做自己，在一个人时，在群众里也能享受独处的幸福。
I look forward to sharing with you the latest research about how pain is created, how we feel pain coming from our brain, the center of where pain is feelings are originated, and how we can work with that to improve our mental, emotional, physical, and social well-being.
相信大家都有这样的一个体验，那就是当你心情好的时候，你看到身边的人事物都是美好的。但是俗话说，人生不如意之事十之八九。所以，当我们遇到不如意的事情时，如何能够稳住心情，才是活出幸福人生的关键哦。那我们应该怎样做到呢？
本次的讲座透过情绪的起伏、梦境以及内外的衝突，帶領大家一起尋找並遇見真實的自己。
And I would like to invite you to join for a free webinar called Thriving During COVID-19, Cultivating Self-Compassion and Developing Resilience, on Sunday, February 23rd from 3 to 4:30 p.m. as part of the Resilience and Wellbeing Summit presented by the University of Tunku Abdul Rahman.
3月8号晚上8点，我将带领一场讲座，叫做“好心情，好幸福”，欢迎大家一起来参与，我们到时见哦。
I'm really looking forward to presenting at the summit. My topic is going to be all about finding balance and cultivating resilience. During this presentation, I'm going to introduce you to this idea that well-being is in fact a skill that can be learned.
“我们都一直努力地撑着，大家还好吗？”病毒的肆虐让我们感受到生命的无助，生活上的各种挑战也让我们感受到不同程度的紧绷、压力、烦躁、不安，甚至是恐惧。但同时，我们也看到顽强的生命力。你还记得自己尝试过了哪些努力和调整吗？有没有发现自己其实可以沉稳下来，弹性变通，还可以自救？马来西亚生命线协会成立超过30年，疫情期间也不间断地提供电话辅导、线上心理健康课程等等。如今，生命线协会推出95爱心基金，邀请950位大众以小额定期方式捐款，只需要1天1令吉，也就是每3个月95令吉，就可以协助组织以各种服务和课程，有效地推动95精神。什么是95精神？指的是当挑战在我们能力范围内，我们需懂得如何自救；而挑战太大，无法独自面对时，我们则需要懂得发出求救信号。我杨艳艳邀请大家一起小额定期捐款，一起支持生命线协会的服务，让人人在疫情下发挥95精神，懂得自救、求救。
Hello, everyone. I hope you can hear and see me clearly. Good afternoon. I welcome all of you to the Resilience and Wellbeing Summit 2022. Being grateful on this day, I would like to announce that our session today will begin at 3 p.m. A huge thank you for joining us on today's webinar. My name is Gurshina Kaur. You can address me as Sheena, and I'm the MC for the day. Well, while waiting for our event to start, allow me to introduce a little bit about our summit. In conjunction with University Tunku Abdul Rahman's 20th anniversary of its founding in Malaysia, we are hosting a remarkable and impressive summit, which is the Resilience and Wellbeing Summit 2022. And here you are with us today. So, together with our co-host partners, Body Counseling Center and Journey Within. Not forgetting our dedicated partner includes Alliance Alliant, Kaohsiung Medical University Positive Psychology Center, Taiwan Mindfulness Association, Taiwan Association for Caring and Counseling for Loss, Malaysia Xiao En Group Counseling and Support, Lifeline Association Malaysia, Malaysia Mindfulness Association, Tan Siang Mitra Welfare Association Penang, Inner Journey Academy, Roko Films, and Sinchu Delhi. The duration of our summit is from 20th of February to 31st of March this year. So for the next few weeks, we will be covering various topics under the themes of resilience and well-being. As of now, we have actually covered resilience, a path to happiness, and now we are moving next to wellness strategies to build resilience, and we have more to come. This summit will bring you speakers from around the world, which include mental health specialists, psychiatrists, neuroscientists, psychologists, counselors, and mind training practitioners to provide us insights of mental well-being and strengthening resilience. Although our seats for webinars are sold out, please feel free to share with your families and friends about our Facebook Live, where this will benefit them as well. So please like our Facebook page for further updates, and you can find the link from our chat box. And we will be beginning our session at about 3 p.m. sharp, so please stay with me. Thank you. Hello once again. So I hope you can still hear me clearly. So to all our audience today, we truly appreciate you for joining us on our talk, on thriving during COVID-19, cultivating self-compassion and developing resilience. So just a little housekeeping rules before we get started. You are not allowed to perform any recording throughout the session, and our chat box will be closed throughout the session. If you have any questions during the presentation, please type them into the Q&A box in our Zoom control panel. And your cooperation is highly appreciated. And allow me to give a brief introduction of myself as the moderator of today. I am a registered counselor who is currently serving in Counseling and Guidance Unit, Utah Kampa campus. And also, I'm glad to be part of the organizing committee for the Resilience and Wellbeing Summit 2022. And finally, the most awaited moment, let me introduce to you our international speaker and author, Mr. Carl Laro from Malaysia. Well, Mr. Carl has conducted over 1,000 workshops for more than 50,000 professionals on 3 continents on how to transform stress and exhaustion into positive energy and empowerment, where this has actually helped them to find the strength and stamina to go on working while learning to care for themselves. He is also the best-selling author of Breath of Relief, Transforming Compassion Fatigue into Flow, where 10,000 over copies have been sold to date, and co-author of You Are Good Enough, Embracing Who You Really Are, which I would say a must-read for all of us. To add on more, he is an HRDF trainer and the industry advisor for the Master of Psychology program in Utah. So as all of us can see, he is dedicated and passionate about this field, where he also researched new methods in psychology, such as positive psychology, energy psychology, strength psychology, and investigated the practices of somatic awareness, conscious breathing, mindful movement, and creative visualization, which I believe we will get a little hint of it today. So it is with special excitement that I'm pleased to welcome Mr. Carl Laro to enlighten us on how to thrive by cultivating self-compassion and developing resilience during this time. Mr. Carl, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Sheena. Much appreciated. That was a wonderful introduction, and I appreciate that. And welcome everybody to this wonderful summit, this Resilience and Wellbeing Summit, sponsored and developed by Utah. It's really a pleasure to be here and to share my passion with you, which is thriving during COVID-19, cultivating self-compassion and developing resilience. Now, let me see if I can go ahead and get my slides up here. There we are. And let me begin with an introduction to the webinar. We'll begin with taking a look at the kinds of stresses that we're dealing with today. And we're literally dealing with 3 kinds of pandemics, actually, all at once today. The stress pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic, and a mental health pandemic. And I want to just talk about and describe each of these briefly. Then we'll move on to what's called mindfulness-based stress reduction, or MBSR. And this is one of the most researched and effective stress reduction methods out there today. So this is going to be a little bit of the how to do part of this webinar. I'm going to invite you to join me as I demonstrate some of these very simple, easy, yet effective methods for reducing our stress. Then we'll talk about thriving, and particularly thriving as a form of post-traumatic growth. And post-traumatic growth is kind of a new concept that's been getting a lot of attention in the psychology literature recently, because we're experiencing so much trauma in our lives. And it's all about how do we thrive and grow even in the midst of the kinds of stresses and traumas that we're experiencing today. Next, we'll go into how to embrace physical and emotional vitality, because Vitality is a part of thriving, and I'll have some methods and some suggestions that you can try out in your own life about how to begin to embrace more positive physical and emotional energy. Then I want to talk a little bit about self-compassion, because self-compassion may be one of the most important things that we can learn in our lives today. And that's because when we get stressed out like we are, especially for so long, we can get to be pretty hard on ourselves. And self-compassion is one of the most effective forms of self-healing that there are today. And we'll actually do a self-compassion exercise. Then we'll take a look at how to discover your strengths. Because once we begin to practice self-compassion, we realize that who we really are inside of us is strong. And so we can begin to learn, how do I identify my strengths, my talents, my capacities, my abilities, and how do I utilize those strengths to feel more confident inside? And finally, we'll then move to resilience and how embracing strengths and self-compassion and positive energy can develop resilience. And it's really resilience what we need today. So let's move on then to the stress pandemic. And ladies and gentlemen, we've been experiencing a stress pandemic even before COVID-19. In fact, the World Health Organization classified stress as a pandemic before COVID-19 and lists stress as the second leading disability or cause for disability in the world. It's the second leading cause of disability in the world, stress is. And imagine that. It's stress, not heart disease, not AIDS, not diabetes, but stress is the second leading cause of disability. In fact, the World Health Organization estimates that stress costs the world economy $350 billion every year in lost productivity. The number one disability in the world today is depression. And this really kind of surprised me when I read it too, but the World Health Organization says that depression is the number one disability. Again, even before COVID-19. And as you can imagine, stress and depression are close cousins. And we'll talk a little bit more about depression in just a moment. Now let's turn to the COVID-19 pandemic. And as we're all very familiar with, this pandemic, it started about 2 years ago. It was a dramatic and traumatic intrusion into our lives. Dr. Tedros, the director of the World Health Organization, says this: the impact of COVID-19 pandemic on people's mental health is already extremely concerning. Social isolation, fear of contagion, and loss of family members is compounded by the distress caused by loss of income and often employment. And I'm willing to bet that there's not a single person listening to this webinar today who either has not been directly affected by COVID-19 or knows somebody or has a relative that's been affected. The amount of stress that this pandemic has caused is it's really incredible. In fact, it's beyond ordinary stress, if there is such a thing. It's beyond chronic stress. It's traumatic stress. COVID-19 has really unleashed a pandemic of traumatic stress on the world today that can really result in feeling overwhelmed, anxious, constantly upset, very emotional, or sometimes withdrawn. It can impact your ability to concentrate, focus, and even remember things. It can also affect your sleep and drain your energy. And I'm sure most of us have experienced some of these symptoms during this pandemic. And finally, we have a mental health pandemic. COVID-19 has dramatically intensified certain mental health conditions. And I want to name just a couple of them that are of special concern today. And the first one is called post-traumatic stress disorder. And this is a mental health condition of acute and chronic stress that goes on and on even after the trauma has been experienced. So it's a stress disorder even after you've experienced the trauma. So if you've experienced some kind of emotional trauma in your life, say you've lost a job, or maybe your health was compromised, or you've lost a loved one as a result of the pandemic, that trauma can result in experiencing stress symptoms over and over and over again. That's called post-traumatic stress disorder. Another concerning disorder is anxiety. We're experiencing more anxiety than ever before. And this is the feeling frightened, scared, upset, sometimes all day long, sometimes not even knowing why it's happening, but we feel on edge and tense and anxious all the time. And that anxiety is being experienced by more and more people today. Again, I believe as a result of the pandemic, which has resulted in so much uncertainty in our lives. Then there's panic attacks, and panic attacks are short-lived, usually short-lived, very intensive anxiety episodes where your heart can be beating very fast. Some people even think they might be having a heart attack. You can be hyperventilating. There's a sense of losing emotional control. And usually they're short-lived attacks, but they're very, very debilitating. And again, we're seeing more and more of these as a result of the the COVID-19 pandemic. And then lastly, depression and unfortunately suicide has been on the rise. I've been on a panel here in Penang monitoring the incidence of depression and suicide in Penang and Malaysia. And tragically, since COVID-19, there's been a great deal more depression and suicide attempts. And again, I believe this is the result of the COVID-19 pandemic, but also the highly pressurized, stressful world that we're already living in. So now I want to talk a little bit about mindfulness-based stress reduction, or MBSR as it's known. MBSR was developed by Dr. Jon Kabat-Zinn, who interestingly enough is not a physician. He got his PhD in molecular biology from MIT. And for some reason, his interest really turned towards how to help people who are experiencing chronic stress. And so in all of his research, he developed what's called mindfulness-based stress reduction. And it's a form of highly researched, highly effective stress management methods. In fact, they've been taught at the University of Massachusetts Medical Center, and now it's estimated that they're in about 80% of the medical schools in the United States are teaching some form of MBSR. So what I want to show you and invite you to join me to do are some very simple, easy MBSR methods to help identify stress and then to discharge and to release the stress. So let's begin with somatic awareness. Somatic awareness is a method to become more aware of the feelings and sensations of stress as they are occurring. See, what happens when we get very stressed out, particularly when we're stressed every day over and over, and it goes on and on and on, is that we begin to do what's called dissociate. And what dissociation is, it's a psychological defense mechanism, but it means to disconnect from our feelings. So that when we experience stress, which is in the body, stress is mainly a body sensation. When we experience stress, we don't notice it because we've dissociated, we've disconnected from our body sensations and our body feelings. So much of the time, our attention has gone up into our head, literally in our heads and in our thinking, that we do not pay attention to what's going on inside of us, so that we can be experiencing stress. It can be happening in our bodies, but we're not aware of it. And the research shows that we go into a stress reaction, get this, 60 times a day on the average. In an 18-hour day, that's once every 20 minutes. So our bodies are constantly going into a stress reaction, but we may not be aware of it in our minds. So what somatic awareness is about is how to become aware of what your body is feeling so that you can discharge and release the stress before it builds up in your nervous system. And that's another thing about stress, is that it builds up. There's such a thing as cumulative stress. Stress can literally build up in your body and your nervous system. So here is the exercise. It's called somatic awareness, and it's bringing your attention into your body, utilizing what's called the felt sense. Now, the felt sense is a way of noticing what you're feeling. It's not a thinking process, it's a feeling intuitive process. So I'm going to ask you to pay attention to what you're experiencing, the sensations and the feelings in your body. And we're going to take a look at 3 main areas where stress tends to build up. So are you ready? What I'd like you to do is to imagine a stressful event, which should not be hard to do. Imagine a stressful event, a recent event that kind of made you stressed out. And I want you to allow yourself to feel that, not just remember it in your head, but to feel it in your body as well. So bring that event back to mind. Allow yourself to feel what you were feeling during that event. And now I'd like to ask you, you can close your eyes. It can help with this if you want, but you don't have to. Bring your attention from inside your head. Just extend your attention into the back of your neck, your shoulders, these muscles that connect the shoulders. These are called the trapezius muscles. Just bring your awareness and your attention into those muscles. And just notice what you feel. Notice if there's any tension, tightness, or squeezing sensation, or sense of pain. These are all signs of stress, chronic stress. Just feel what you're experiencing. Allow yourself to feel it. And just take note of it. Don't try to make it go away. Just take note. What are you experiencing in your neck, your shoulders, the back of your neck, and these muscles that connect the two? Now move your attention into your chest, particularly around your heart. And in the same way, just open up your feelings, your sensations, to the sensations, to whatever it is you're experiencing in your chest. Again, there may be a sense of tension, tightness, maybe a little bit of pain. Often stress can mask as having heart problems. In fact, they imagine that about 75% of the people that go to the emergency room thinking they're having a heart attack are actually having a stress attack, because these muscles in your chest can literally begin to cramp up under stress. So just pay attention to what you're experiencing in your chest and around your heart area. Open up your intuition, open up your feelings. Now bring your attention into your stomach. This is the third place that we tend to hold a lot of stress. Our stomachs can feel tense, tight, that acid reflux feeling, and very often we're holding our stomachs in, not even realizing it, tensing and holding those muscles in. Just notice it. So these are the three main areas that we experience stress. And again, we usually don't notice it until it gets so painful and so tense that our minds have to notice it because of the pain that we're experiencing. My guess is that most of you have experienced stress in your neck and your shoulders. Oh, there's a saying I forgot to put up here: lose your mind and come to your senses, by Dr. Fritz Perls, the founder of Gestalt, which is what we were doing. We're losing our mind and coming to our senses. But let me turn now to discharging energy residue. I imagine that most of you experience that stress and that tension right up here in your neck and your shoulders. I've done this exercise with thousands of people, and almost everybody notices it in the neck and shoulders. So what we want to do is to learn how to discharge and how to release that stress from the neck and shoulders, because what develops is called energy residue. And energy residue is cumulative stress and trauma that has built up in the nervous system, and it needs to be discharged. It needs to be released. And so I want to show you an exercise now that will help you discharge and release that energy residue, that built up stress that's gotten inside the nerves and the muscles themselves. So to do this, I'm going to put the camera on me, and this is a very simple, easy exercise. And what we're going to do is I want you to, again, bring your attention into your neck and your shoulders, these trapezius muscles here where we tend to feel tight and the muscles feel really wound up. And what we're going to do is a very easy movement. We're going to breathe in deeply from our diaphragm. I'll talk more about breathing in a moment. We're going to breathe in deeply from the diaphragm as we pull our shoulders forward, up, and then back with the big deep breath. And then we're going to release and discharge all of the stress that we're experiencing. So let me show you the movement again. We'll bring the shoulders forward as you take a deep breath in. Pull them up as close to your ears as you can. Rotate them back, extending your chest, and then release and push out all of your breath. As you're doing this, I want you to use your imagination and sense and feel the stress breaking down as you're pulling your shoulders forward, up, and back. So let's give it a try. Okay, big deep breath from your diaphragm. Breathe in, pull your shoulders forward, 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 up as far as you can. Try to touch your ears. Feel the stress break down as you rotate your shoulders back, extend your chest, and then imagine, feel all of that stress coming out as you release your breath. Let's try it again. Again, big deep breath in, pull your shoulders forward, forward, up to your ears, rotate them all the way back, feel that stress break down, and then release the breath, push all of your breath out, And again, imagine all of that stress going out with your breath. Can you begin to feel a little bit of the relaxation? It's like your muscles have gotten a little looser, a little bit more relaxed. I want to show you another version of this exercise because it's often the case, and it was for me, that when our stress gets so embedded in the muscle, so caked in the muscle, that just simple movement by itself isn't enough to release it. So we're going to use a method called dynamic tension, and that means moving tension. And so what we're going to do is the same motion, same breath, same visualization, but we're going to tense the muscle first. So we're going to really tense these muscles up, these ones right here, your trapezius muscles, tense, 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 pull them up, as much tension as you can, all the way to your ears, rotate them back, and then really push the air out and relax. Try it one more time. Big, deep breath in, tense, 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 pull the shoulders up, up to your ears, rotate them all the way back, and then release all of that stress. The nice thing about this exercise is that you can do it absolutely anywhere. It takes only a couple of minutes to do. Let me go back to my screen here. It takes only a couple of minutes to do. And the important thing to remember is we need to practice the exercise. We need to do the exercise over and over again because the stress has been embedded in your nervous system for a long time. It's really built in, it's caked in there, and we need practice, and we need to do this all through the day to begin to release and discharge that energy residue. And I imagine right now you're feeling a little bit more relief in these muscles right here and a little bit more energy. Because when you start discharging and releasing that stress and that tension, it gives you more energy. But you're also training your body to release the stress. And that's very important. That we begin to train our bodies to release the stress. Okay, so let me go on now to the next exercise, and this is called conscious breathing. And during times of stress, we tend to breathe short and shallow breaths or hold our breath. And we've learned to breathe unnaturally. I guess I can say that. We've learned to breathe unnaturally. If you've ever watched a young child breathe, you'll notice that their stomachs expand with each breath. Have you ever watched that? Young children, when they breathe, their stomachs extend out with each breath. We don't do that anymore. We've learned to tense and tighten our stomachs and hold our emotions in. We do it involuntarily. We don't do it on purpose. It's something that we've just learned sitting in a classroom hours and hours in the classroom. As we went to school, we were literally taught not to move. And very often we were frightened by the teacher. So we learned to hold our breath literally in fear. And holding your breath is really, we do this when we're stressed, when we're feeling afraid. So conscious breathing is learning to begin to let go of that chronic tension in your stomach and allowing yourself to breathe deeply and fully. And here's the other thing about breathing. Breath is your main source of energy. It's your most direct, vital source of energy. How we breathe determines the amount and the quality of our energy. When we breathe short, shallow breaths, when we're anxious, we breathe short, shallow breaths. The oxygen that we breathe in does not have the time to get absorbed through the lungs into our bloodstream. In order to have more and better energy, we need to learn to breathe deeper, fuller, and slower. So here's the exercise. I'm going to put the camera on me again. What I'd like you to do, and I'm going to put the camera down here so that you can see, I'd like you to put, well, hopefully you can see this. It's sort of fading in and out, but I've got my hand on my stomach, just right around my belly button area there. So it's right here on the stomach. And what we want to do, I'd like you to put your hand here to just feel the sense of the pressure and the warmth of your hand on your stomach. Just make connection with yourself and feel the connection of your hand on your stomach. Just experience that. Just experience the feeling of your hand on your stomach, giving yourself a sense of support. And allow your stomach to relax. Let your stomach out. We all hold our stomachs in. We do it chronically. And it's holding in stress. It's holding in tension. Let your stomach relax. Let your stomach out. So what we're going to do now is breathe from our stomachs. Allow our stomachs to come out as we breathe in, and breathe in a long, slow, deep breath to about a count of 5. So breathe in. Allow your breath to go from in breath to out breath, and now breathe out. Breathe all the way out, all the way out. Push it out. Push the last of your air out. Now again, breathe in. Feel your stomach expand with the breath. Take the breath in, nurture the energy, nurture the oxygen, and now release. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Again, push the breath out, push it out, empty all the way out. Breathe in again. And then out. Notice the feeling of calm energy as you're breathing. Just continue to breathe. Notice the feeling of calm energy as you're breathing. You're literally feeding yourself with the oxygen and the energy you need. And also begin to feel the sense of safety and security in your stomach. I'm going to talk more about this later, but this exercise not only helps you breathe, but helps you develop a sense of safety and security in your center. Okay. Let me go back to the slides now. All right, so I hope you could begin to feel a little bit of that calmness, a little bit of that energy, a little bit of mental clarity. Also realize that even though your brain is only 2% of your body's weight, it utilizes 20% of the oxygen. So when we're getting tired and foggy-headed, it's often because we're tense and tight and we're not breathing, we're not feeding ourselves the oxygen and the energy that we need. So there's a couple of just very simple, easy techniques that you can utilize anytime. Now, I forgot to mention this, and there should be an ebook available to you. And that ebook, it's called Thriving with Positive Energy. That ebook explains every technique that I'm talking about to you right now. It explains everything that I've just said, and it even has links to videos demonstrating each of these methods, and it's got a bunch of other stuff in there as well. So the ebook should be available for you. It's free to download. So let's now move to thriving and post-traumatic growth, because thriving is this sense of positive energy. In fact, let me give you the definition of thriving, and this is from Positive Psychology. It's defined as the experience of learning, growing, and getting better at what one does, and a sense of vitality, feeling energized and alive. See, and that's the state we want. We want to begin to let go of the stress that weighs us down and makes us tired and irritable and exhausted, and begin to embrace this positive energy, begin to allow ourselves to have and develop and embody more positive energy. And that's what thriving is all about. Now, there's a new concept out fairly recently called post-traumatic growth. And post-traumatic growth is really about how do we thrive in all the stress and all the traumatic stress that we're experiencing today. And so post-traumatic growth can be defined as the experience of positive change that occurs as a result of the struggle with highly challenging life crisis. And that's from the American Psychological Association. Isn't that what we're experiencing today? A highly challenging life crisis. So we can learn to thrive through this crisis. This crisis doesn't need to bring us down. When we learn how to discharge and release our stress and begin to accumulate and embrace more positive energy, we can learn to thrive. And that's where I want to go next. Well, before I get there, real quickly, let me give you some of the benefits of post-traumatic growth, because once we learn to grow from traumatic stress, there's a lot of benefits to it. Let me go through these quickly. And these have been studied for people who've experienced trauma and have grown through it. Very often they have a greater appreciation of life, improved relationship with others. They're more open to new possibilities. They discover personal strength. So again, what the research is showing is that you don't have to be beaten down by stress. You don't have to have stress-related disorders. We can learn to utilize the stress to develop this greater appreciation for life, more open to new possibilities, and learning to discover our personal strength. So this is what we want to learn by learning how to thrive. So the first part of this is embracing vitality. So the first part of learning how to thrive or post-traumatic growth is embracing vitality. Vitality, again, the School of Positive Psychology defines vitality as approaching life with excitement and energy, not doing things halfway or half-heartedly, living life as an adventure, feeling alive and activated. So we want to learn how to bring in more physical and emotional vitality into our lives. And here's some suggestions for that. Let's begin with physical vitality. It's very clear that gentleman has a lot of physical vitality. So how can we begin to have more physical vitality? Again, I'll start with what we've just done, and that's release stress regularly. I think I already mentioned we go into a stress reaction 60 times a day. We need to recognize it and release stress on a regular basis, because that stress can accumulate in your nervous system and over time really bring you down emotionally and physically. So practice releasing stress. Just spend a couple of minutes every day in the morning, maybe at noon, and before you leave work or leave school. Learn how to recognize the stress that you're feeling inside and then discharge and release that stress. So release stress regularly. Number two, get your body moving. And I don't know how to say this loudly enough or clearly enough so people will really understand and hear this. We, in our lives today, in our modern lives, we have become almost physically immobile. And it's not natural. Your body is designed to move. For 99.99% of human history, we have been very, very active in our lives. It's only recently, really, that we have sat behind computer screens and barely move. We must get up and get moving. Your body is designed to do that. It's meant to do that. It does not work well if we don't move our bodies on a regular basis. And I personally recommend some kind of what I call mindful movement. I don't like being on a treadmill either. I don't do that anymore. I will do something where my mind is very active and involved in the exercise that I'm doing, and I exercise for the energy and the enjoyment of the exercise. So many people say, I don't like exercise. Well, that's because they're exercising for the wrong reason. Exercise, do something that makes you feel good. And that will give you really the motivation to do more exercise. So get your body moving. Find something that you love doing and get your energy moving. Yeah, I'll just leave it at there. I could go on with this one. Next, rest and recovery. We are now a society or a world hostile to rest. We are in such a rush from the moment we get up in the morning until we finally put our heads down at night. And it's no wonder we can't sleep because we have so much stress energy going on inside. We need to learn how to truly rest and recover our energy. Our bodies work in what are called biorhythms, and it's estimated, the research shows that we really need to take a little break, whether that's just 5 or 10 minutes, do some mindful movement, discharge, release energy, but we need to rest and recover, they say, about every 2 hours. So every 2 hours, if you can find the time or whenever there's a chance where you can just let your body rest, learn to find those times during your day and rest and recover your energy. Practice your breathing, release the energy, get your begin to accumulate that positive energy. So rest and recovery is extremely important. Next, learn to be comfortable in your own skin. And what I mean by this is most of us have our attentions in our heads almost all day long, thinking. We're not comfortable inside of ourselves. And it's natural because when we're so stressed out, we dissociate, we disconnect from the stress feeling that we're experiencing. So we need to discharge that stress, rest, recover, learn to be comfortable inside yourself. We need to really begin to have that feeling of familiarity and a sense of being comfortable with ourselves in our own skin. And lastly, begin to sense and feel your energy. The fact is you already have lots of energy in your body. We just don't notice it. We get so caught up again in stress or in negative thinking or all the stuff that we're doing that we're not sensing or feeling the energy you already have in your body. The more time you spend focus on the inside, paying attention to what you're sensing and feeling, you'll start noticing a current of positive energy that's always been there. It's just that you've never tapped into it before. So there's already energy available to you. Learn how to sense and feel and tap into that energy. Okay, so now let me talk a little bit about emotional vitality. Emotional vitality, and I love this picture because as young children, we had lots of emotional vitality. We didn't learn to hold everything inside. We were open, we were free with our emotions, and we need to learn to get back to that to some degree, to tap back into that natural vitality, natural emotional vitality we already have. So here's some suggestions. Number one is open up to positive energy. I was just talking about that a second ago. What we know from positive psychology is that negative energy, negative emotions are stronger than positive emotions. It's unfortunate, but it just happens to be true. We can get very caught up in our negative emotions. It's very easy to do, and we often ignore our positive emotions. We need to make the conscious effort to open up to when we're feeling good, to when we're feeling positive. Studies have shown that we feel positive more often than we remember at the end of the day. So open yourself up to the feelings of positive energy. And one way to do that is by savoring positive experiences. Savoring is defined as attending, appreciating, and enhancing positive experiences that occur in one's life. So again, it's our natural tendency to ignore positive experiences or not pay much attention to them and to focus on the negative ones. What I'm going to suggest is that you begin to learn how to pay attention to the positive experiences. So when something good happens, you don't just go, okay, and then go on to something else. You go, wow, that was good. That feels nice. I like that feeling. I'm going to savor this feeling. That was a real success. I'm going to allow that success to sort of come inside of me. I'm going to savor that success. It's like savoring a wonderful meal. You know, when you're sitting down to your favorite meal, you want to taste that, that whatever it is you're eating and just savor that positive taste. We want to do the same thing with positive experiences and positive energy. Savor it. And we actually develop what I call a savorings account. The more you savor positive experiences, the more you internalize them, and the more those positive experiences become a resource for you to help you recover from stressful and negative experiences. So learn to savor positive experiences. The next is heart-centered appreciation. Learning to appreciate ourselves, our others, what we do have in our lives. The research again is showing that when we can show appreciation, when we can acknowledge appreciation, when we can feel that appreciative feeling, it's literally good for your heart. And this was interesting research. Having an appreciative feeling is actually healthy for your heart. And that, you know, and that appreciation, it comes from your heart. It's a heartfelt, heart extended appreciation. So allow yourself to feel more of that appreciation, heart-centered appreciation. Then express gratitude. We have a lot to be grateful for, and gratitude's a very powerful, positive emotion. And when we can begin to express gratitude, it changes us and it changes the people around us. When I do consultations for businesses and I'm working with a team that may have a bit of conflict within it, I will often suggest that they put up a whiteboard and have people write down what they're grateful for, or write down a gratitude note to somebody else on the team, or something that someone has done that they're grateful for, to begin to create a gratitude culture within that team. And so gratitude can transform people individually and teams. Very powerful, positive emotions. And then cultivate, the last one is cultivate self-compassion. And that's, I'm going to talk a bit here about self-compassion, and we're going to do a self-compassion exercise because it's one of the most powerful things that we can do to be more positive mentally and emotionally. So let me talk a little bit now about self-compassion. And I have personal experience with self-compassion because I burned out when I was a crisis counselor. This was many years ago in a very busy inner city emergency room in the United States. I burned out and developed severe depression. I had such negativity from all of the crises and all the negative things I was dealing with as a crisis counselor. I was dealing with a lot of people who were depressed and suicidal. And I came from a sort of a not very happy childhood, and that triggered a lot of negativity inside of me. And the more stressed I got, the more negative I got with myself. As I began to actually pay attention to the things I was saying to myself, they were very negative things. You're no good. How could you do that? What's wrong with you? And we often give ourselves these really negative messages, and we do so automatically, and we do so sometimes without even realizing it. And when we do that over and over and over again, we're literally knocking ourselves down. And so self-compassion was developed, it's not developed, but it's been researched by Dr. Kristin Neff. Great website to go to, selfcompassion.org. She has lots of tools, self-compassion tests, self-compassion exercises. She shares all of her stuff with you openly, so you don't have to pay for anything. Very worthwhile going to. She says this: instead of mercilessly judging and criticizing yourself for various inadequacies or shortcomings, self-compassion means you're kind and understanding when confronted with personal failings. And so one of the things we really need to learn to do is to begin to treat ourselves with kindness and compassion. Because think about it, you live with yourself 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And yet we tend to treat ourselves in ways we wouldn't treat other people. So let me just talk real quickly about the research, and then we'll do the self-compassion exercise. The research shows that people who regularly practice self-compassion are less likely to be depressed, anxious, and stressed. As I mentioned, it brings us up. It rather than knock ourselves down with anger and self-loathing, self-compassion brings our energy up. We're also more likely to be happy, resilient, and optimistic about the future. And those are great traits to have, particularly during such a stressful time. And again, this was from Positive Psychology and the research in self-compassion. Again, visit the site. It's real worthwhile. So what I'd like to invite you to do now is to do a self-compassion exercise with me. And so what I'd like you to do is to bring to mind a time in which you were not kind with yourself. A recent time in which you maybe said some very angry things to yourself, or you felt very disappointed in yourself, and you may have muttered some things under your breath like "you stupid," or "you're worthless," or "what's wrong with you," or some of these other things that we tend to say to ourselves, and that sort of heavy kind of feeling. Just bring back to mind a situation in which you were pretty tough with yourself. Just bring that to mind and allow yourself to feel the feelings and feel the stress and where you're feeling it in your body. So we're going to sort of bring the attention inside again and feel that those feelings in the body. And what I'd like you to do now is we're going to do a shoulder rotation, and we're going to release those feelings. And you can do the dynamic tension one or the regular one, whichever one you want to do. Just as we do the shoulder rotation, just imagine all of those feelings breaking up and loosening up and coming out with your breath. Okay, so let's do the shoulder rotation. Bring the shoulders forward, up, breathe in, deep, deep, Rotate them back, all those feelings breaking down into little pieces. And now, release all of those feelings, all of those things that you said yourself. One more time, let's just really do this right. Pull the shoulders forward, up, rotate them back, and imagine all of those heavy, angry feelings coming out with your breath. And now let's go ahead and put your left hand on your stomach. And I really should be having this on me. So let's go ahead and again, left hand on your stomach. And allow yourself to breathe deeply and fully from your stomach. You've just let go of those feelings of anger or frustration or disappointment with yourself. You're just letting those go, and now you're breathing in some positive energy. Allow yourself to breathe deeply and fully from your diaphragm. And again, feel the safety and security and warmth of your left hand over your stomach. Just feel that feeling of support that you're giving yourself. Continue to breathe deeply and fully from your diaphragm, feeling the sense of safety and support and security right in your core, right in the core center of yourself. Feel that feeling. And now place your right hand over your heart. As you continue the breathing, place your right hand over your heart and feel the connection of your right hand over your heart. Feel the connection you have with yourself. Because what you're doing right now is holding yourself, comforting yourself, giving yourself a sense of safety, security, and compassion. And imagine the feeling of compassion, appreciation, kindness. Imagine that feeling going from your right hand into your heart. Now, if you're having a hard time being compassionate towards yourself or imagining the feeling of compassion for yourselves, and many of us do, imagine the last time you were compassionate for somebody else. Imagine a time in which you gave your understanding and your kindness to another person and comforted them and gave them compassion. Remember that feeling. And allow yourself to feel that feeling. We can give ourselves compassion. In fact, we deserve compassion. We are the only person that lives inside of ourselves 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We must be kind and compassionate and caring with the person that we are. Just allow that feeling to go deep inside, deep into your heart. And savor that feeling. Internalize that feeling. Allow it to go deep inside. Now, it's my recommendation that you practice this at least 3 or 4 times a day. I practice this several times a day. Again, we're under such stress, and the tendency to be harsh on ourselves is baked in. Almost all of us have it. We've learned it. We've learned as children that for some reason that the way to improve is to be harsh on yourself. In the United States, we call it do not spare the rod and spoil the child. And so I learned that being kind with myself was not something to do. That's not the case. Be compassionate for who you are. We need to learn and nurture that internal sense of self-compassion. So now let's talk about discovering your strengths. Because once we begin to have that internal sense of compassion, that over time will develop a sense of internal strength. And because strength comes from compassion, by the way, it doesn't come from being harsh with yourself. That doesn't develop strength. That develops weakness, because you're literally beating yourself up into weakness. So it's embracing compassion, embracing positive emotions, embracing these positive experiences. That's what gives you strength. And so many of us are just not attuned to focusing on our strengths. If you're like me in school, I was taught you should improve your weaknesses. That's how you get better. That's not the case. That's not what research shows. Research shows we improve more when we focus on our strengths. So let me kind of, this was said so very well by Dr. Clifton. He says, from this point of view, to avoid your strengths and to focus on your weaknesses isn't a sign of diligent humility. It's almost irresponsible. The most honorable thing to do is to face up to the strength potential inherent in your talents and find ways to realize it. And so what I want to talk about now is just what strengths are and how do we discover our own personal strengths. So strengths in positive psychology, strengths have been defined, or character strengths have been defined as a pre-existing capacity for a particular way of behaving, thinking, or feeling that is authentic and energizing to the user and enables optimal functioning, development, and performance. So, long definition. What it means is it's a pre-existing capacity. We all have strengths. We're born with strengths. We don't need to get them somewhere. They're already within us. And so we're born with these particular ways of thinking or feeling or behaving, and they feel authentic to us. They feel like this is who I am, and they're energizing. And when we focus on these capacities, we do better. We feel better and we do better. Now, I'm going to show you a website where you can go do a strengths test. It's free, and it'll tell you what your top strengths are. But strengths are things that include curiosity, for instance. Curiosity is a strength. Having good judgment is a strength. Leadership, teamwork, fairness, bravery. These are all forms of strengths that people have. I did the test, and my top 3 strengths are creativity, love of learning, and persistence. And I am happiest and most empowered when I can utilize those strengths. For instance, doing these webinars, it's the most creative thing that I can do. I love doing webinars because I can be as creative as I want. And I'm learning all of the time, and I'm very persistent at it. And so when I'm doing these, I feel good. It makes me feel like this is me. This is what I'm designed to do. This is what I'm best at doing. And so this is how I know these are my strengths. So let me give you some ideas. But I'm going to just sort of zip by the research on strength, good research. But I'm actually getting a little bit out of time. So I want to go to, how do you identify your strengths? And so there's certain things that you can do to identify what your strengths are. And the first one is strengths have a sense of ownership and authenticity, the intuitive feeling, this is me. So strengths are very close to who you are. when I discovered through taking that test that creativity was my top strength, it did not surprise me. I've always been creative as a kid. I always loved to create new things, put new things together, try out new things. It's what made me feel energized. And so it's who I am as a person. And I've always loved learning. I always have a book around. Even as a kid, I always was wanting to learn. So strengths are something that's you, it's inside, it's who you are. So there's a sense of ownership and authenticity, a feeling of excitement while displaying it. So when you are displaying your strength, whatever that is, you feel energized, you feel excited. You never get tired of it. I've done hundreds and hundreds of workshops. I do a different design every single time. I never get tired of it because it's who I am, and that excitement comes out each time. So there's a feeling of excitement when you're practicing your strength and you want to learn new ways to enact the strength. So for me, the creativity started out with doing PowerPoint. Then I decided to write a book. So I wrote a book. Now I'm writing ebooks and have gotten into video. So there's all different ways of enacting that creativity, all different ways of enacting the strength. And then there's a yearning to act in accordance with the strength. I yearn to be creative. I always am wanting to learn new things. It's an inside energy that I feel. You have this longing to do it. So that's another way to identify your strength, and creating and pursuing fundamental projects that revolve around using the strength. So these are ways of identifying what your strengths are. And as you begin to identify and utilize them, you'll have that sense of excitement about them. So let me just ask you, what are your strengths? And one of the ways to do this, and I do it through journaling, and I would invite you to try some, I call it mindful journaling, and just ask yourself the question, what do you love doing? Just think about that. What is it that you love doing? You've always loved it. It's just something that's natural to you. What do you love doing? And then ask yourself, what are you naturally good at? And again, it's probably something that's been with you for a long time. It's an ability, it's a capacity, it's something that you've always been good at. So what are you naturally good at? And what feels most genuine to who you are as a person? What feels most genuine? What feels closest to the person that you really are? So one way to begin to discover your strength, I would say, is just answering these questions. Do some journaling. Let whatever you're thinking and feeling come out in the journaling. Now, here's the website, biacharacter.org. This is where you can go and take a free strengths test. It's real worthwhile. It'll take about 40 minutes, 45 minutes. There's a lot of questions, but it's really worthwhile to do. And then they'll give you a printout of what your top strengths are and a description of what those strengths are. So learn what your strengths are and begin to focus on your strengths. That's the other thing that I wanted to share. Focus on feeling strong inside. Don't worry about improving your weaknesses so much. Find out what your strengths are and focus on those. Develop and utilize your strengths. Now let's talk a little bit about resilience. And resilience has been called the ability to bounce back from adversity. That's what resilience is. And we're certainly experiencing a lot of adversity today. So the fact is this, is that we're going to experience stress in our lives. There's no way out of it. There's no such thing as a stress-free life. When I hear someone advertise how to be stress-free. I don't even bother. There's no such thing. It's not even healthy to be completely stress-free. We need some stress in our lives, although we certainly have more than enough now. Resilience is that capacity that when you get stressed out, you don't fall apart into pieces. You can literally bounce back and adapt to that adversity. So psychologists define resilience as the process of adapting well in the face of adversity, trauma, tragedy, threats, or significant sources of stress. As much as resilience involves bouncing back from these difficult experiences, it can also involve profound personal growth. And this is really maybe the advantage of or trying to turn this pandemic, the stress involved with this pandemic, to our advantage. In some ways, you can look at it like this, that a pandemic hopefully comes along once in a generation. And now that it's here, how can we make the best use of this adversity to strengthen ourselves to become more positive and more resilient? So in a way, we can look at how to utilize the situation that we're in right now, rather than deny it and try to push it away, utilize it to develop our internal strength and our internal positive emotions. So let's take a look at how to actually develop resilience. And this outline came from Dr. Martin Seligman, who was the president of the American Psychological Association a few years ago, and one of the founding fathers of positive psychology. And some years ago, the Army asked him to research and develop methods to help soldiers be more resilient, so that they can be better at their jobs. And so it's called the Master Resilience Training in the U.S. Army, and it's all described in American Psychologist. So developing resilience begins with self-awareness, identifying counterproductive thoughts, emotions, and behavioral patterns. So that's basically paying attention to when we're stressed, not denying it, not pushing it away, not pretending it's not there, not pushing it on somebody else, but our own self-awareness to sense and feel what's going on inside of us, to monitor what we're thinking, and to notice when our thoughts, emotions, or behaviors are counterproductive. They're not serving us. So it begins with self-awareness. In my book, You Are Good Enough, we call it self-honesty, that we need to be honest enough with ourselves to notice when we are maybe thinking or behaving or feeling in a negative way. So we need to begin with what it is we're experiencing. Then the next step is to develop self-regulation. And this is considered the master aptitude, the ability to regulate our feelings and behavior, develop the ability to delay acting on negative impulses. And when we get stressed, what often happens is when something happens, we immediately react, and we can react quite negatively. And sometimes that can have an impact on other people and have an impact on us. We need to, again, learn to release that energy, develop an internal sense of positivity, an internal sense of safety and comfort with ourselves, so that we can have enough internal strength and comfort to delay acting on negative impulses. That's called self-regulation. Then focus on the positive, develop optimism, challenge counterproductive beliefs. And what we know from cognitive behavioral psychology is that we all have certain beliefs that are not really productive, such as, why does this always happen to me? It's always on my shoulder. They're always doing this to me. I can never do anything right. People don't like me. All of these kinds of beliefs that we have, we need to learn to challenge those beliefs because they are not correct. And those beliefs can drag us down. When we begin to actually look at and challenge counterproductive negative beliefs, it frees up more positive energy, more strength, more internal feeling of resilience. So focus on the positive, as we were talking about, focus on positive emotions and on your positive thoughts and positive behaviors, and challenge the counterproductive beliefs. Mental agility, the flexibility and openness in thinking. And what this means is that not getting caught up in the same old repetitive negative thinking. And that's when we get caught up in that, we need to release it. And that's when I do the shoulder rotation and let go of that negative feeling, the negative thoughts, and the negative beliefs. And that will open up a sense of flexibility and openness in thinking. In fact, the research shows that the more positive we feel, the more open and more flexible our thinking is. So positive emotions help with mental agility. And then finally, focus on strengths to overcome challenges. Trying to bring ourselves up by improving our weaknesses is not as effective as improving your strengths. You get more benefit for the time and the energy by focusing on your strengths and improving those than by focusing on your weaknesses. So finally, this leads us to what I call discover your best self. Everybody has a best self inside. When I was deeply depressed, I thought the person that I was flawed and terrible and just not adequate. As I began to develop more and more positive emotions and more strengths and more of a sense of confidence within myself, I learned that there's already this best self that we have inside. It's already there. It simply needs to be nurtured. And so this best self is a resource we call on to build confidence, to help us make decisions, to be courageous, to prepare and see possibilities for the future, to face challenges, and so much more. And this is according to the Positive Organizational Scholarship Center. So you have a best self inside. It's there, it's resilient, it's strong, it's positive. Allow yourself to begin to discover this, to sense it and to feel it, and to allow it to become more a part of your conscious self. And so here's one thing that you can do, and I hope you'll do this later today or sometime tomorrow. Imagine you can embrace your vitality, positivity, strengths, and self-compassion to discover your best self. How would you feel? What would you do? And what would your life be like? Again, I would really recommend that you write those down and you ask yourself those questions. If I could really embrace my vitality and positivity and strengths and self-compassion, and I could find and discover this best self, how would I feel? What would I feel like? Every day, what would I feel like? What would I be doing? What would I be doing differently? How would I be interacting with people differently? And what would my life be like? So these are 3 questions to consider. Ladies and gentlemen, we are facing a new normal, and this really is our chance to reinvent and create a better world where we can work, rest, and play in a new normal. We cannot rewrite the chapters of history already past, but we can learn from them, evolve, and adapt. The new normal may even be a better normal, certainly a different normal. So says Mark Pringle. And we're facing a new normal. It's my hope that you will take what you've learned today and develop a positive, resilient new normal for yourself. So I thank you very much for your time and your attendance. It's been a delight presenting for you today.
Thank you, Mr. Carl. It was amazing. You know, the enthusiasm that you had in your sharings is really contagious, I would say. The way, you know, you brought in the exercises of breathing, you know, and those body movements, I would say the dynamic attention, it just, you know, got me feeling lighter and relaxed. It is worth admiring. In fact, Mr. Carl, just to share with you, we had few comments, you know, on our Facebook, you know, on our chat box that saying that they felt wonderful, you know, it was a wonderful experience and they felt relieved, you know. So definitely we are all looking forward to exploring the ebook that you have shared with us. Yeah, and since it's at 4:20 now, probably we can give in some time to answer questions from our audience.
I see one right now. How to practice self-forgiving. And thank you for asking that, because self-forgiveness is possibly one of the most important and powerful things that we can practice. And it's something that I practice too, because I've really thought in my life that I've made so many mistakes. How do I forgive myself? One of the things that I remind myself is this: I am a human being. Human beings make mistakes. And I know now that I don't make mistakes on purpose. I don't try to make mistakes. When I've hurt somebody or I've done something that's not been positive, it's not because I'm an evil person or I'm trying to harm anybody. It's because I didn't have the positivity I needed inside to respond to them in a different way. And so most of the mistakes I look at in my life now, and I can see I didn't mean to make those mistakes. I didn't try to make them. It's because there was something I didn't have that would have helped me make a better reaction or a better decision. So learn to forgive yourself, because I truly believe, and one of my affirmations is this: I'm doing the best I know how to do, given the person I am today and the situation I'm dealing with. When I know a better way and can do it, I will. And so understand, give yourself a break, and that will help you find a little bit more forgiveness with yourself.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Carl, for enlightening this part for us, this area. And going to the next question from our audience is that you shared that you practice exercise combined with mindful exercise. Could you please share some example or elaborate more on that and how long it takes?
Okay, excellent question again. Let me just tell you the story. I've been a martial artist my whole life, and I got severely depressed when I was in the emergency room, burned out, developed depression, was on medication, large doses of medication. My psychiatrist said, your depression is so severe, you're going to have to be on this medicine probably for the rest of your life. I'm sorry, but that's how it is. I moved to Singapore 30 years ago and learned Qigong. And after practicing, and Qigong is a mindful movement like Tai Chi, like yoga, like where you put your attention inside your body as you're doing these fluid flowing emotions in tune with your breathing. That transformed me. After 6 to 8 months of Qigong, I was able to let go of my medication, and I haven't needed to take it in the last 30 some years. Mindful movement, and I've got all kinds of, by the way, examples of it in my YouTube. I've got many, many different videos that go through the motions. I call it flow motion. That's the exercise I practice. It's called flow. It gets your body into a flowing movement, and it's very simple to do. And it just gets you going into that positive flow feeling. So I do this every morning. before I get my day going, because it just gets me into the positive mood.
Okay, good to know that you're sharing some of the activities that you do, which we can practice as well for ourselves.
Also, they're in the ebook. All of those, all the things I just talked about, it's in the ebook. There are videos that you can click on in the ebook that will demonstrate how to do those.
Yes, I'm sure that we already shared that and they might explore more on that. Thanks, Mr. Carl, for sharing that with us. And yeah, we have more questions on Facebook. Shall I go ahead if you're fine with that, Mr. Carl?
Sure, I'm fine.
All right. So one of the audience mentioned that it is surprising to know that we are actually harsh to ourselves and we need to practice self-compassion. May I ask, Mr. Carl, what is the reason or cause of a person being harsh to oneself?
Okay, good question. Every one of these have been excellent questions. We're hard on ourselves because we usually have very high self-expectations. Most of us have been taught you've got to do better, do better, do better. It's never good enough. In fact, that's why I wrote the book, You Are Good Enough, because most of us have been taught that no matter how hard we try, what we do, it's never good enough. And even when we get to where we think we should be, we raise the bar again. And so that's these high expectations. And when we don't meet them, then we get very down on ourselves. We put ourselves down. We think somehow that you can build yourself up by knocking yourself down. And it's just not possible. But that's what we've been taught. Usually our parents have been harsh on us when we didn't meet their expectations. My parents certainly were. And so we learned that you should be harsh on yourself, and that's the way to get better is by beating yourself up. And I can tell you from an expert self-beater upper, that's not the way to do it.
Okay, thank you. So I'm assuming that, all of us after today, we need to go and grab to read on You Are Good Enough, embracing who you really are, so we can enlighten ourselves in that field. Okay, so the last question for today be from our Facebook page. Hold on. Okay. Why do one, when in stress, throws tantrum to the other? What would be the best way to overcome this?
What was the first part of that? Why?
Sorry?
What was the first part of the question again?
Why do one, when in stress, throws tantrum to the other? What would be the best way to overcome this?
So, I mean, again, I'm not understanding the question. How does stress go from one person to another?
Yes, yeah. Why do one person, when they're in stress, they throw tantrum to another person?
Oh, got it. This is because stress is contagious. Negative emotions are contagious. In fact, positive emotions are too, but negative emotions are more contagious. We have, in fact, they just recently discovered what are called a mirror, like a mirror, neurons. And our brains are literally programmed to mirror other people's responses. And so when we see somebody who's angry, who's stressed, we pick that up and our brains start doing the same thing, particularly if we know that person very well, particularly if we have a relationship with that person, then it's even more contagious. So yeah, stress literally is contagious. And in fact, it's very contagious. You walk into work and you see your boss with the real, stressed look on their face, and you're automatically very stressed out. So yeah, it's quite contagious.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, and what to do about it? Notice it, release it. Again, and let me just answer this because this is so important. Bring your attention inside yourself. Feel what's going on in your body. Don't keep it trapped up in your head. Feel what your body is feeling. When you feel the stress, and you'll get better and better at it with practice, release it, discharge it. We should be releasing it several times a day. Because we go into the stress reaction over and over again.
Yes, yes, that is really practical and helpful for each one of us to actually apply that, to help ourselves better. It's more like self-care as well, I believe.
Yeah. But we have to learn to care for ourselves and be willing to care for ourselves and have the compassion for ourselves to care for ourselves.
Yes, yes, appreciate that, Mr. Carl. So looking at the time, it's now like we are just on time today.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's 4:30 sharp. So I guess I will proceed with the wrap up for the day. And yeah, definitely the first one is, I would like to thank you, Mr. Carl, for speaking and inspiring us today. I believe all of us are grateful for the time and effort that you took to share your thoughts and your experiences, not forgetting the resources you have given us, the link of your ebook, your the videos that you have shared. We really appreciate that. So I believe that all of us can benefit immediately, from the knowledge that you have shared. So thank you once again, Mr. Carl.
Very welcome.
And also, I would like to thank our dear participants and our Facebook viewers for allocating your time being with us today. So, on behalf of our organization, we would like to invite all our audience to leave a few words or thoughts under the Facebook live stream of this event. So you may click the link from the chat box at the bottom of your Zoom control panel. And definitely not forgetting those who are watching us live, please join us in the comment section because your thoughts, your view could be an inspiration to us today. And before we end, allow me to share our next two coming talks, which will be conducted in Mandarin by Taiwanese and Malaysian speakers. On 1st of March, we are having on I'm Very Sad, but I Won't Be Easily Defeated. And on 3rd of March is Self-Care for Helping Profession, Facing Vicarious Trauma Through Self-Compassion. So let's save the date. And lastly, we would like to promote a little about our Utah Hospital, which is a non-profit hospital and will be self-sustained. So your valued support and generous contribution to this hospital project will actually greatly benefit our medical and health science students, so including the community and also our nation. So to support our Utah Hospital project, please click the link below www.utah.edu.my/UEF for donation. So thank you, Mr. Carl, and everyone here. See you in our next talk, and bye everyone. Let's have a good day today and welcome an awesome Monday tomorrow. Thank you.
Bye.